From the dawn of man, indigenous people from every corner of the globe have spoken of things that have now been discounted as myth or legend. Things they saw, lived alongside by, were looked upon as deities or worshipped by gods. Things that present-day man refer to as entities, spirits, demons, cryptid creatures, extraterrestrials, and much more. But sadly, modern man, science and society has discounted what our ancestors spoke of as legend and myths. But there are those of us that know what the ancient ones spoke of is the truth. Those of us who are obsessed with finding out the truth. This search for answers brings us into the world of the unknown and unexplained. It brings us on the trail, in search of living legends. Please join us tonight in another part of our journey to find these answers and bring the truth out into the light. Welcome and thank you for listening.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are back for our kickoff episode of season 7, 2025. I got my brother and co-host Nick Valente with me. Nick, how's it going, brother?
Oh, it's going great. Nice and warm here
Must
on
be
January
nice.
January 19th, 2025. We have a very unique and special guest, for our audience tonight.
Yep.
Angelique Benham. Ange has been she's mostly out in the Pacific Northwest area, Washington State, Oregon, what is it? Idaho, I guess it would be.
Yes.
Ange?
Yes.
Some special stories out there in the Idaho area where I actually had to send 2 of my team members out at one time. It's crazy. And Ange is well, you're a researcher, but you're basically a field investigator. She's out there mostly by herself,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely amazing some of the stuff that you've done. And Ange, give us a little background on you and how you started out in cryptozoology.
I'm sorry, I missed your question. My Jeep did a weird thing and it took the volume off my phone.
I was just saying, if you could just give us a quick recap of how you started out in cryptozoology and what you're up to these days and some of your background.
Okay, well, personally, I'm the mother of 3 adult sons, and I have been an experiencer almost 26 years, 25, wow. 26 years now. But I think looking back, probably most of my life, I can explain that I've probably been experiencing things much longer than what I realized I was experiencing. I grew up on the reservation. I learned how to track when I was 7 years old by my dad, who had took me out and taught me how to track. And I started having, actually it started with Sasquatch. I had my first sighting when I was, well, I can't remember how old I was, but it was in the year 2000, so 25 years ago.
Wow.
But I've also had encounters with other things as well, which is why I'm here with you guys today. And it was probably about 5 years ago, I was asked to be on a research team. It was an all-women's research team, which I went ahead and joined, which went well in that I was able to get just a group of like-minded women who like to get out in the woods and explore and things like that. But it really started becoming, it started morphing into something a whole lot more when my son started getting into it. And he's ex-military. He's from the Navy, excuse me, so Special Forces. And
Oh,
so he started having his own encounters, and the two of us kind of branched off away from the team that I was with, because I guess I'm more of a tomboy than I realized. The girls were wanting to just kind of stay in camp and hang out and you know, spill the tea as it goes. And I was like, let's get up in the bushes and go crawl through the badger holes and see what we can find. And my son and I ended up more or less branching off, and then he formed his own research team when we started having more and more encounters utilizing Native American techniques, and doing that opened things up for us to the point where at this point in time, and I'm talking about the forest people, I'm not talking about other cryptids, but
right.
to the point and degree that he has almost daily had encounters and documentation of a communication going back and forth with him and we think about 5 individuals. Most of them are adolescent, but on his YouTube channel, you can see the videos day by day. He's living in an old trailer cabin right now while they're transitioning to build the new house. So it's kind of an old trailer out in the woods, but they come right in there and gift. They leave him gifts, and that's how it started. And so he's been able to do that day by day. And then myself, where I'm at right now, I'm actually in the medical field, and I moved down to the outside the Umpqua National Forest, down here by myself. I'm gonna be here for a couple of years while I train and get all my stuff in my noggin, and I'm all by myself. I haven't met anybody yet down here where I'm at that is willing to get up and go in the woods, and so I'm pretty much doing it myself, and I'm fine with that. I've tracked and lived by myself in the forest for many years, and have gone through survival training and things like that, where I stayed for a month in the Sierra Nevadas in a wall tent by myself, and climbed to the summit of a couple mountains in the Sierra Nevadas. Got extremely altitude sick, but yeah. So I'm good with being down here by myself. But I have had some encounters with some interesting things that I still don't know what they are. I'm looking for answers, and I have stumbled across Dogmen before, and probably came way closer than I should have, not realizing really what I was doing until I came back later, and it was surreal. And so, yeah, I've just been going day to day, working, documenting, and networking with teams much like yourself, to try to gather information. And right now, one of the people on our team has been traveling Europe and has literally almost daily come across the same identical things that we do here in the Pacific Northwest. So it's very intriguing, very exciting to see this going on all over the world, not just here. And
sure.
I'm going to be working and sharing some information with Dr. Igor Burtsev as well from Russia, because he's asking for it to kind of be included in what we're discovering. So it's exciting. It's exciting, and that's it in a nutshell.
Well, it's actually really good to hear that over in Europe, that they're actually experiencing the same things that we're having here.
Identical.
I try to tell people that, Australia has Bigfoot type beings and Dogman over there also. because we have a pretty large contingent of members from the IDP, the International Dogman Project, over in Australia and New Zealand. And, they actually have the same thing that and they're thousands and thousands of miles away, So in Europe, we have the IDP Europe, and, they're thousands of miles away also. And they actually have people there that have experienced it. So it's not just confined to the United States. I mean, they'd been talking about the Yeti and, the abominable snowman forever, really a long time. And just to let everybody know, Angelique is a long-standing member of the IDP from way, way, way back when I first started it. And she's one of those people that's out there by herself in her Jeep, and she will leave her Jeep and, go out there and try to, discover things that, what I do as a team, she just does as an individual. I'm not too happy about it, but hey, what can you do? Anytime you're out there, you got to do what you got to do. And you're, are you part Native American?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you got it in the blood there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here, Angelique, in part Mohawk.
Yeah. I'm Miniconju.
Okay. Cool.
Lakota. Yeah.
Yep. Very cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And Nick, if there's somebody down here that would like to go research, I would be more than happy to go with people and get a team going down here. I just can't find anybody.
Hey, look, I'm living here in North Carolina, and I'm openly advertising. It's hard, but now that I'm going to be out there for a while, I'll solicit people over in Oregon and see what they got there. I mean, even if they can only meet 1 or 2 times, at least it's a few more people, a few more eyes out there, a little bit safer.
Yeah.
So that would be nice. Yeah, I'm writing that down right now. I'm definitely going to do that. I'll put it out there.
And I will trust that with your intuition that these are people that I'm safe with.
First, before I'd have you meet them, I would do a background check on
Thank
everybody.
you.
And I need to talk to people. I would do the same thing that I do for myself. I'd do for you and anybody else. I'd have to see them face to face on a video call, talk to them several times, get information from them, and I run background checks, and tell them that if anything happened to you while they were out there, I'll be coming up there. Jay,
and I'll be right behind him.
We'll find them.
Yep, absolutely.
So there's no such thing. I mean, that's not a threat. It's just a promise.
Yep.
We're out there to do research, not to be crazy people.
I think some people forget that every now and then.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Those are some of the people that we have banned from our IDP group. But we do pretty well because we stick by the rules. We don't do religion or politics. We don't get involved in the politicking in the cryptozoology community. We're in it for the research and for the field investigation. People just, I don't understand why they just get off the path.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Sometimes the answers are they want to make money or they want fame. We don't care about that. We don't care about making the money or the fame. As a lot of people know, I made patches up and I mailed them out to people. At my expense, never charged them anything. So I mean, it's not about making the money. I don't care about doing that. I want research, and I don't care what cryptid it is. Sasquatch, Dogman, Mothman. It doesn't matter what it is out there. We just want the information.
Yep.
These days, Angie, I don't know if you're getting any information when you're out there because you're close to California, but I've gotten well over, at this point, it's 230 calls or messages from people living in California who have actually had sightings of Dogman and Sasquatch and a couple other cryptids since the 6th of January. And over 230 communications, let me put it. And I think it's because of the fires, the wildfires. I never got this much out of California. Never. If I got maybe 10 in a month, that was a lot.
Yeah,
No,
I agree.
but right now, people are calling left and right, and they're saying, "Gee, can you get anybody out here?" And my answer is, number one, I don't have a team set up, and number two, by the time we got there, they're probably gone.
Yeah.
Now, if you made a sighting in a certain area in California, they're probably gone by this time.
Yeah.
So it's good though that they're reporting it. I'm keeping a map and pinning the map, with little pins and stuff to show where they've seen them. And I mean, people are asking on our IDP site, "Oh, well, you don't have all these calls. You have nothing to show for it." What do you mean?
No,
What
I
I'm
hate
doing
that.
is I'm giving you statistics. I'm telling you what's happening and why. Even
Yeah.
Sasquatch and Dogman, they're being seen more and more because of the fact that there's wildfires, and even they can't fight a wildfire.
Nope.
Yeah. Nope.
So
nope. Well, look at what happened at St. Helens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they didn't run. They were caught in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, can you stop lava? No. You could just get burned up. So it's just it's just a horrible thing. I feel super bad for those people, all of them.
Yep.
And I mean, people lost their lives, lost their livelihood, lost their homes, lost everything. It'll be a long time before they can rebuild out there. God be with them. That's all I can say.
Exactly. Yep.
In your experience, Dogman sightings, where have you had those?
The first one that I know legitimately was a Dogman. I thought, and this is going to be new to you, Nick, because I realized this actually several months ago. I was getting ready to talk to you about this. Was when I was 8 years old. Now, the first one I remembered being when I was 13. But
Right.
when I was 8 years old, we lived in central Washington state. That was the wheat belt area.
Mm-hmm.
We lived on a farm on a hillside overlooking other farms below us. And these were cattle, pigs, chickens, that kind of thing.
Sure.
We had horses, and I don't even think we had cows at that time, but we did have horses. And I remember I was sitting out in the yard, and when you looked down the hill, really the only thing to look at was the neighbor's farm below us. Everything else was just pasture. And I had forgotten about this until I was moving and found my little diary that I had when I was 8 years old, where I wrote every single day something interesting when I was 8 years old. And I found this diary, and as soon as I read it, I was like, that's right. I remember that.
Wow.
I remember looking down at the farmhouse below us, and their backyard had a gate, not a wrought iron gate, but an aluminum gate, where it had the little peg that fits around the hole, and you have to lift the peg and swing the door and then put the peg back, or the whatever that is. I can't remember, but I remember that they didn't have any pets. They didn't have like a dog or a cat or anything like that. They just had chickens, and I think maybe rabbits or something. I don't even know if they even had that, but I know that they had chickens, and I know that they had a big garden. And I remember seeing this big shaggy dog mulling around in their backyard, and I mean big, black, shaggy, real shaggy looking dog. And now we're looking at probably 100 yards from where our farm was, where their farm was. So I could see it, and it wasn't too far away to see, but it wasn't close enough to get real close. And this big dog was mulling around, and then it went up to the back gate, and I remember it stood up on its hind legs, and it opened the gate.
Oh my God.
Went through, and then dropped back down onto its all fours again. And then it shook, like, you know, when dogs are wet, they'll shake. It shook, and I remember it went kind of poof, like its fur kind of poofed. And then I remember I wasn't necessarily scared by the fact it was standing on its hind legs and opening the gate. I was more scared when it dropped back down and it started coming up the hill, not towards our ranch, but kind of beside it. And it had just a real creepy, just not really nothing I had seen in my 8 years, you know. But I think what spooked me was more how when it trotted up the hill, it didn't really move like a normal dog. Like a dog will, you know, when it's moving kind of halfway between a run or a gallop or whatever, between, you know, just walking, this kind of not really pranced, but just kind of, it had a really weird gait. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, because I play out by myself out in the fields. I did it when I was a kid too, but here I was out by myself playing in the field and thinking, oh, that's a creepy looking dog, and it's big. It's really big. And I had forgotten all about it. And here I read this diary, and in my diary, I was really mad because I was trying to tell my parents what I had seen, and nobody was believing me. They were telling me, "Oh, you're just being dramatic or whatever." And that was what my diary entry was. It was real short, and that's all I remember. And I don't think I ever saw that dog again. I know I didn't see that dog again, but I remember specifically it opening the gate and going, well, that's kind of weird because our dogs can't do that.
Right.
But yeah, so that was, I think, the very first one that I saw, and I never ever saw it again. Now I do know that we kept coming up with missing, like house pets, like our cat kept coming up missing. But you know, when you live on a ranch, it could have been an owl, it could have been a hawk, it could have been an eagle, it could have been a coyote. I mean, there's dozens of things that take out house pets when you live out in the country. But
yeah,
you know, that was, I think, the first one. So the second one was when
13.
Yeah, I was 13. That was when we were on the highway between, I want to say, Winnemucca and Las Vegas. And it was those really, really long straight stretches where it goes like 100 miles without a curve in the road. You just drive. Yeah. And it was my oldest sister and her husband and my older brother were all living in Las Vegas. I was still living at home with my mom back in northeastern Washington. And we would drive from northeastern Washington down to Las Vegas to go see my brother and sister down in Vegas. Well, I was getting ready to go down there, probably to stay the summer with them. And I'll never forget, we always went at night because it was just faster at night. You didn't have traffic. Everything just went faster. And we had this big boat of a car. I don't even remember what it was. Probably something like an old Cadillac or something. Just a big 4-door boat of a car from the 70s. I'm in the back seat. And I remember my brother was driving, my sister was in the passenger side. And I remember it's pitch dark outside. You don't see any lights out in the desert. There aren't any farmhouses, nothing back then. It was just pitch darkness. And we're driving along, and I remember the radio was playing, and then pretty soon we had run out of even airwaves to radio station. And I remember my brother reaching over and turning the radio off, and right then something enormous came galloping out of the desert and ran right directly beside us, literally keeping up with the vehicle. And its back, looking out the window, its back was eye level to me. And it was on all fours. It was not on two legs. It was on all fours. And it was galloping beside us. And everybody was just stone silent and just looking, just looking. And then all of a sudden, it just veered off into the night and vanished, and we didn't see it. And I remember everybody was just like, nobody said anything. And then all of a sudden, I remember my brother going, "Did you see that?" And my sister going, "What was that?" And what I saw, because I was in the back seat looking over, it had a long snout. It was probably the size of a cow, but it had a long tail, and it galloped, and not like a horse, not at all like a horse. You could tell it was a canine of some kind. It was enormous. And I remember my brother going, it stayed up with us. And I was doing 80 miles an hour. My brother was driving 80 miles an hour, and it was staying beside us. And then it just veered off. And now that was when I was 13. When I was 17, now this was kind of almost like a little bit of a puzzle piece for me. I was 17, went down to stay with them, and I started dating this boy, and he had also a big car, and we were like, "Hey, let's go out to the desert." He was going to show me this spot outside of Henderson where I could look down in and see the city lights. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, there was no intention of there being any hanky-panky, okay? we were actually being good, okay? He really honestly wanted to show me the lights, and he was a good kid. He didn't try anything, you know? And I trusted him, and we were good friends, you know? Well, we no more than just got out into the desert outside of Henderson when he buried that car all the way up to the frame in the sand. And we were stuck solid. And here we were, we could see Las Vegas, we could see the lights. It wasn't that far. And so we just kind of went, well, if we're going to get home before curfew, we better start hoofing it. So we left the car and just started walking across desert, because you could literally see the lights where we knew. We just pointed in that direction, we were going to get there. And we were probably walking for about a half hour when this pickup started. We could see headlights coming through the desert, and this pickup came, and it was like a 3/4 ton. It was a big pickup. And the guy pulls up to us, and he was in full military fatigues. And I can't remember what his rank was, but I knew he was in fatigues because my brothers were in the military. I knew it was full fatigues. And he goes, "What are you kids doing out here? Get in this rig now. I'm taking you back into town." And he was really giving us the what for, you know. And we got in there, we're thinking, oh, this guy thinks that we're, you know, hanky-panky, you know, and stuff. And he's like, "I don't know what you guys are doing out here, but you have no business being out here." Well, we were on the opposite side of the valley from where Nellis Air Force Base is. So we thought, well, this isn't where you're not supposed to be. You're not supposed to be on that side, but this side was okay. There was no trespassing signs or anything like that. That's all on the other side near Nellis Air Force Base. And I think we even said something like that to him, like, well, Nellis Air Force Base is over there. You know, we were over here kind of thing. I can't remember what all was said. But he goes, no, you guys don't understand. You have no business being out here. There are things out here that will kill you. And my boyfriend goes, well, yeah, there's rattlesnakes and coyotes and cougars and stuff. We know about that kind of stuff. And, you know, even like scorpions and stuff. And he goes, no, you don't understand. There are things out here that are worse than that will drop a full-grown man. You have no business being out here. And we didn't even ask. We were just like, because we were getting yelled at by this guy. We were two kids going, you know, we were more worried about this guy, you know, punishing us, you know. But he took us all the way into Las Vegas and dropped us off at the house, at our house.
Nice.
And said, I'm not leaving you out here, and do not come back out here if it's going to be past dark. Don't even think about coming back here after dark. You wait until morning to come get your car, and I mean it. And we were like, okay. And we did. We waited till the next day, but to this day, I would love to be able to find out who that guy was. But I can't remember everything that he said, because it's been so many years ago, but I do remember him saying something about us being statistics. If he hadn't come along, we would have been a couple statistics. So yeah, that was when I was 17. So that was that time.
I'll have to say a lot of
the
military guys at the different bases throughout the United States. And I want to reference the calls that I got in reference to the wildfire and Bigfoot and Dogman sightings. There is a military base out there. Originally, I got 2 calls, one from a lieutenant and one from a sergeant. And I got 4 more calls in the days after the 6th of January from soldiers from that same base. They do see things out there because they do run patrols out there. You know, they're up on normal security patrols, you know, around the base and everything. So they see things out there that most people don't. And when they report it, they're told just to forget about it. You know?
Keep your mouth shut.
In this case, I got one from a lieutenant and one from a sergeant. They asked, you know, not to be identified, but a total of 6 calls from the same base. So, I mean, things are really getting bad out there. And yeah, there are things that go bump in the night. And it's a good thing that guy came along, Ange. Really.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good God.
Yeah, we were probably about 5 miles out of Henderson, off in the desert. If he hadn't picked us up, we may very well have been a couple statistics.
What did the guy have to do to get his car back? Send a tow truck out, or?
No, he went with my brother, my older brother, and they went. My older brother had a big old pickup and the tow rope and yanked him out. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but yeah, no, it was. And here we were, a couple of kids thinking, oh, you know, coyotes. We grew up, you know, I grew up on a ranch. Coyotes, that kind of stuff was nothing to us. So we did hear coyotes while we were walking, and I remember thinking, oh, there's coyotes out here. Well, just keep walking, they'll leave us alone. But I want to skip to the most recent one that I've had with, I'm pretty sure was a Dogman, and that was it was either last year or the year before, but it was back in the panhandle of North Idaho, and I was walking on a trail around a very populated lake, Didn't have to, wasn't thinking about anything. I was just exploring. I was just walking because it was a nice path and it was a pretty lake, and of course it is in the wilderness, so it's not like there's houses around, but it's popular in that everybody wants to go there and go hiking because it's so pretty.
Right.
And I was walking and I heard something. I stopped to look at kind of the view, and I heard something above me in a tree that sounded like a bark. Well, you know, crows will make kind of weird noises. You never know what a crow's going to make. They make some pretty bizarre noises, but
They
this
do.
was,
Yeah.
this was a different sound, and it made me look up. And I remember and I was looking up at this tree, and this family full of teenage kids were behind me. And I looked up at the same time. The boy who was closest to me, he looks up into the tree too. And I said, "Did you hear that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I did hear that. What was that?" Because it sounded more like, it didn't really sound crow-like. It sounded different. It sounded more like something woofed rather than like a high-pitched crow sound or a caw or whatever. And he goes, "I did hear that." And his dad goes, "Well, what did you hear?" Because his dad walks up, and the kid goes, "Well," he goes, "it sounded like a dog up in the tree." And the dad just immediately blew off his kid, just immediately blew it off and went, "Oh, you're whatever," you know. And I can't even remember what he said, but you could tell the kid was just like, "Here I go again," you know, Dad, you know. But I looked at him and I said, I did hear that. I did hear. And the kid kind of gave me that look like, "Thank you," you know. Well, I walked around the other side of the lake, and then I turned around and I came back. And when I came back in that area, I stopped at that tree, and I was looking up into the tree because I was supposed to meet one of our team members, Tanya, who was going to be meeting me at the trailhead. Well, I stopped at that tree and I didn't see anything, but I looked off into the trees, and I swear I saw the biggest wolf head I have ever seen that was as big as a grizzly bear. I mean, his forehead was so broad, but he was inside like some buckbrush, and it was standing so still that I was doubting what I was looking at. And I'm like, Is that a statue? Did somebody do this as a joke? You know, did they take one of those wooden statues and place it in the buckbrush just to be kind of a joke? And I'm looking at it and I'm going, no, it looks like a wolf. It really looks like a big black wolf, but it's way bigger than a wolf. Way, way bigger. I started walking towards it because I thought, if it's a wolf, it's gonna turn tail and run when I get to a certain point. When I get to the point where it feels threatened, it's gonna turn around, or it's gonna move. It's gonna do something. And I started heading towards it, and I got probably about maybe 30 yards from it. And then a group of people came on the trail behind me and started making a bunch of noise and everything. And I don't know why, but I turned around and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go back down on the trail and keep walking. So I did. I turned around and went back down on the trail, and I changed my mind basically from going up there and looking at it. When I met Tanya back at the trailhead, she wanted to go and see. And so I told her, I said, well, let's head down the lake and everything. And we turned around and headed. And when we got to that spot, I told her about what I heard up the tree. And then I told her about the wolf. And I said, well, there's this, I'm sure it's just a, whatever, just a optical illusion. But when I got there, it was gone. There was no.
Oh.
There was no big black wolf head in the buckbrush. It was just buckbrush. And I went, okay, that was really, that was probably a close one.
Yeah.
And, but we didn't have any experiences. We didn't have anything negative. I haven't really had anything negative happen throughout most of my life. I have found when I lived on the ranch in North Idaho that I lived on a ranch that had 77 acres, and it was absolute wilderness. I didn't even have, the closest neighbor I had was a quarter of a mile down the road. And on 3 sides, it was state ground, and then a lake that nobody ever went to. It was basically private lake, and it was where we were on. We didn't really have anything negative there, but we did have a visual of an upright canine on the side of the road one night. My son was driving, and that was the first time that he saw one. And it was the first time that it ever really, truly dawned on me that these things actually walk upright, because what I'd seen when I was 8 and what I'd seen alongside us in the car was on all fours. So
Yeah.
it was the first time that we actually realized that they stand upright. And my son was driving. We were coming up the hill, and our ranch was right on a plateau. And as soon as we had to get momentum to get up the icy grade, because there's deep snow in North Idaho, 2 and 3 feet of snow every winter. And when we got halfway up the grade, it was literally standing right on the side of the road in the ditch. And my son goes, "What was that?" And he slammed on the brakes, which you can't do on the ice. He slammed on the brakes, and we lost control, and we went in the ditch.
Wow.
Kind of a little sideways, but the headlights were aimed at it. What I saw looked like something like Anubis. It didn't look like a wolf. It looked like Anubis. I mean, it had an upper shoulder like a human, and it had a long, slender torso like a human, and it turned sideways, and it had a long snout, and it had like Doberman pincher ears, like straight up, but not docked ears.
Right.
It turned its head to the side, and then it just ran down through the trees and the buckbrush. And it doesn't even have a good game trail through there. It was buckbrush and trees and bushes, and it ran so fast through there that we really couldn't even catch up with it. It just was turned and it was gone into the darkness. And my son was just having to get out and put the hubs in on the drive. And he was like, "Stay in the car," because I was gonna get out and turn him too, and he's like, "Stay in the car." He made me stay in the car so he could get out and turn the hubs by himself, because he was like completely blown away by what we had seen, and I was too. And after that, we started noticing that there were things that were like, we found a dead deer in the back pasture, and the entire upper torso of this deer was gone, and it was in the snow. It wasn't like the carnage that you see when wolves, which we did have wolves, we had regular wolves, coyotes, and that kind of stuff. They'll just shred a poor animal, and you'll see bits and pieces and hair and blood everywhere. This was like, it was half an animal, and the upper half had just been picked up and walked off with. There was just the lower half sitting there like it had been surgically cut in half and left there. And there there was no explanation for us. Now we're getting it, but back then we were like, what the heck? Because nobody could even hunt on that property. It was our property,
Yeah.
Nobody's going to go out there and shoot, and it's not near a highway or anything where anybody could run over an animal and, mutilate it or whatever. It was literally half the animal had been picked up and walked off with, and there were no footprints except for canine prints, which I can't say they were enormous, but they weren't small. They weren't small, but they weren't so enormous that you would say this was, monstrous. It was just, we all kind of went, that doesn't make sense. Wolves don't do that. A pack of wolves don't do that. They'll bite off bits and pieces, and they might move it away from the rest of the pack to eat on it, but you're going to see it spread out all over.
Yeah.
You're not going to see it in one spot and then half of it just gone.
Right.
That's not going to happen. I don't even think bears and cougars don't even do that.
Yeah.
It's just not natural. So
Right.
something walked off with it.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
How tall would you say this thing was?
The one that we saw, we went back to in the daytime to where the tree was, and we measured it. My son is 5'9", and he reached up as high as he could possibly get on his tippy toes, and it was still probably had about that far to go before where the branch was, where its head was. So we know it was probably 7, 8, somewhere around there. I mean, however far you can reach on your tippy toes with your, hand above your head. So
that's
yeah,
the
it was big.
size that they've been coming in reported as. In the 7 foot 8, 7, 9, a little bit smaller. Generally, you don't get 8-foot dogmen, unless, of course, you're that guy in California that had interviewed. He had 12 and 15-foot dogmen. That's that was an interview never came across, Ange.
Holy. Yeah, no, it wasn't like super enormous. It was really fast. Fast. That's the spooky part.
Yeah.
Really
and
fast.
And it was on 2 legs the whole time it was running?
Yes, it was on 2 legs. And if you tried to navigate in broad daylight without there being 2 feet of snow on this hillside, it would take you several hours to do.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No game trail. It's a thick, nasty buckbrush that is, and steep, very, very steep. So yeah, it would take you a while to get down that hillside. And where the road went up, like I said, the ranch was up the plateau, the road going up, but the direction that it ran in was towards the lake, and the lake ran parallel to the road and the ranch. So it was just a really long, narrow, mile-long lake, and my property sat basically up against it, and then the road paralleled. Where it ran off the road was towards that lake in the middle of the dark. So, yeah.
It's amazing. Out of all the reports I've taken, a lot of them say that they came upon a dogman or they saw a dogman just standing there. As a matter of fact, when I met D.A. Roberts many years ago at the Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky, on our way out on the last day, it was my second sighting ever of a dogman. There's a dogman standing next to a tree.
That's how mine went too.
Yeah, I jammed on the brakes, backed up, and he and I ran out of the vehicle, and we both looked at each other saying, wait a minute, what are we doing? Are we going to go after this thing? Are we crazy? No. And but yeah, it was standing there. I've had many reports. People driving down a roadway and there's a dogman standing by a gate, by a tree, by a telephone pole. I don't know. I'm just wondering what's up with them. Do they want to be seen? Do they want to say hi, and it's just part of the reporting process that we get. And generally they're running across the road or they're running through a field. A lot of reports that we get, they do see them like you, Ange, in a tree. It's amazing. Something that big can climb a tree so quickly. Well, then again, bears do climb trees too. So it's like, it shouldn't be that amazing. But
well, when something can literally, if you've ever seen those gates with the little hook that goes like that, that's what that would have had to lift it up to move the gate out and then turn around, put it back, and drop down and walk off.
Totally smart.
That's not even what a dog would do. A dog wouldn't even do that. A dog might walk through, but he would leave the gate open.
Right.
This one shut it. Like this
and it was very polite, closing it.
It was polite. Yeah, at least they had manners.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that reminds me of one that my ex had seen. Now my ex was an avid non-believer, absolutely non-believer in anything. And he had gotten in a really bad motorcycle wreck and had broken his back. And for the year that he was in the turtle shell the turtle shell torso brace that they had him in, I was coming out to his house all the time and helping him walk and getting him back walking again. And he lived about a half of a mile from a stop sign that was out in the middle of the wilderness. Now he did have neighbors that were across the road, but they were farms, they were ranches, and they were people that just stayed to themselves. And every day he would walk this dirt road from his house to the stop sign and back again. And that was how he was basically rehabilitating himself. And he told me that he had literally seen, he goes, I saw something that I don't know what it was. And he told me that it was standing by the stop sign and its head was brushing the bottom of the stop sign. And he said it turned, and he said it had a muzzle and it ran off. And he goes, from now on, I'm carrying my gun with me to go on walks. And I went, and at that time, I still had it. I had not yet moved to where my son and I had seen that at my ranch. I hadn't yet moved there. And so I had not yet had my own experience. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know. I've never heard of anything like that. And we never heard of that until I think Vic Cundiff was the first person that started really talking about them or having a program. We didn't hear about it. It was totally new to us. So when Mitch and I saw the one that was standing on the side of the road, neither one of us we had never heard of anything standing upright and walking like that. And then somebody had told him to get a hold of Vic Cundiff on Dogman Encounters, and he did. He got a hold of him and talked to him, and then he was like, this is a thing. These are real. And we're like, okay, well, that explains a lot of the weird stuff that happened even when I was a kid. It explained, it kind of was a puzzle piece. But I'll tell you, there's some things out there, and it's not just the Dogmen and Sasquatches. There's things out here that I don't know what they are. I would love it if somebody could tell me, because I don't think they're good. I don't think they're good.
Let me ask you a question, Ange. Like you, I've been experiencing, things for 20 plus years. It started with Sasquatch, but then it developed, and then I had my first Dogman sighting, and we moved to North Carolina for the 4 years I was telling you we were down there. And we had Sasquatch and Dogman sightings down there as well. Do you think some of these cryptids tag on to one person and that person keeps having experiences? You know what I understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
You think so?
I believe so. I really do, because
Yeah.
what I've discovered in my life even is that my son and I can be in a vehicle with one other person and this is just an example. This didn't happen to us, okay? So don't take me literally, but he and I could see something, have it cross the road in front of us, and the driver of the vehicle go, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And he and I both going, did you see that? Yes, I did. So, I mean, yeah, I do believe that there's maybe something in who we are as an individual, maybe spiritually, maybe through DNA, maybe our blood type. I don't know. That's a part of what we want to research, right?
Exactly.
That's part of what we're trying to figure out.
Yep.
There's something, because I've had things, my youngest son, Mitchell, that has Legacy Discoveries, he's had it his whole life, where we have literally seen ourselves looking at the identical same thing, and then another person standing right there going, I can't see it. I don't know what you guys are looking at. What are you looking at? We're like, it's right there. For some reason, some people have almost like a block or something where they can't, and other people, and I can't explain it. That's part of what we're trying to figure out.
Absolutely. That's some interesting, very interesting stuff. I mean, yeah, and it's like you said, Nick, too. You know, what amazes me is you said, standing there by a tree. It's almost, do they want to be seen? You know what I mean? Some of these times, because obviously if they're by a road, you know what I mean? They know they're going to be seen by someone eventually. You know what I'm saying? It's it's weird.
Or do they think we can't see them?
Because
most people can't.
Right. Yep. It's definitely an interesting topic. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, Nick, that's an hour. I mean, that flew by.
Our hour. I mean, Ange probably has at least another 3 hours to go that she could.
I tell you what, Ange, if you're up for it, we would love to have you back on at some point, and I'd love to hear about the rest of your experiences with Bigfoot and whatever else you've had experiences with. That would be great if you're willing to come back on. That'd be phenomenal.
Yep, I would love to. I would absolutely love to, because there is, like I said, there's a couple things that we've witnessed that we don't know what they are, and hopefully somebody out there else has seen it too that can go, well, yeah, that happened, and who knows? Who knows? So
yeah.
And Ange, I'll work on getting people out there in Oregon. We'll check them out first, of course. Stay on after we clear the show. We'll talk with you for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks again for coming on, Ange. It was awesome.
Thank you very much, Ange. Very, very much. It was
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to having you on again. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we
actually, if I can just put a plug in for Legacy Discoveries, our team, we've got 8 members now that are from the Great Lakes to Southern Washington, over to North Idaho, down here in Oregon, and then we currently have somebody right now that's traveling the world.
Very cool.
We've got some pretty dedicated team members. We do have a Facebook page, and we also have a YouTube channel under Legacy Discoveries Site Hotel. And that is where you can see step by step, day by day, the interactions, the glyphs, the documentation, the tracks, the handprint, everything, the gifts that the forest people have been interacting back and forth with my son. And we're looking forward to this coming spring, because they're starting to come back again. They left for about a month or so, and they're coming back now. So there's going to be more interactions. And what we're finding is those glyphs and the answers questions my son has been writing on a chalkboard, they've been answering in stick structures. We're finding in Portugal. We're finding in the Umpqua National Forest in Oregon. We're finding those stick structures all over. So it's a language, and we're learning. And I think there's some exciting things that are happening. So if you guys can check it out, we appreciate you, and we welcome information. If you guys have it, we're here not to make money. We're here to learn and share with what we know.
Awesome.
Really
awesome. Thank you again, Ange. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ange.
And everybody, thanks for joining us on our return episode for 2025. And we will be back next weekend. We've got another awesome guest for you. So we'll see everyone next week. Have a good night, everybody. God bless.
Good night, everybody. And be careful out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.